All right, baseball fans. Every year I do this video of the MLB Postseason Bracket Challenge. I've been doing this since 2016, so it is that time of the year again where I fill out my brackets and give you my predictions. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about. First of all, I do have a sports talk channel. Yeah, that's right. I have a sports talk channel. I'll put it in the end screen of this video and in the link in the description below. If anyone is interested in hearing me talk about sports, I would do 2 episodes a week. And it's basically a podcast, yeah. You can make your own podcast on YouTube, which is really cool. So yeah. Alright, so before I start, I know every year whenever I do this postseason prediction video, the video is always a long one. It's always over 30 minutes. I'll try not to make it that long, but by the time you see this, then you'll know how long this video is. All right, and I can break this more down on my sports talk channel. Especially as the postseason goes on throughout the month of October. Yeah, if you want to hear my thoughts on the games and the series after the wild card series, after the division series, after the league championship series, and you can go to my sports talk channel and you can hear my thoughts and opinions on what I have to say on the games. All right? So, yeah. That's that. And yeah, here we are. That time of the year has come again. The month of October, except it's still technically September. It's the last day of September. So the postseason's starting a little bit early this year. That's how the calendar works, My problem is that they don't give you enough time to do your research and all that stuff if you want to try to get your bracket as perfect as possible. They never give you enough time because the last day of the regular season was on a Sunday, right? So Monday, no games, and then Tuesday, that's when the postseason begins, which is today. And I always do my postseason bracket challenge prediction video, right before I go to sleep. It's almost 2 a.m. as I speak. I know. I couldn't do this last night. I just didn't have the time. I did not have the time to do this video last night. If I did, then I would have done this a day ago, but I couldn't. So that's my problem with this. They don't give you enough time. You really only have one day to fill out your bracket, But it's always been like that, so it is what it is. But every year I do this for fun. Alright. Now, recent years, for those of you that watch these prediction videos, I did not watch many games again this season. Yeah, it's because of the rule changes that were made in 2023. I'm not a fan of the pitch clock, to be honest with you guys. My problem with the pitch clock is it's too quick. Yeah, the games are much quicker, shorter. It's just not what it used to be. Over 5 years ago, I really liked the league in the 2010s, It was, I know times have changed over the years. But recent years, I haven't been watching. I didn't watch that many games because I'm just not a big fan of today's league. But I always look forward to the postseason because, in my opinion, the MLB postseason is the best out of the 4 major sports. For the playoffs, I think Major League Baseball is the best, has the best playoffs. All right. However, even though I haven't been watching many games on a regular basis like I used to, I would listen to sports podcasts. Yes, I do listen to sports podcasts to get my news, because there's a lot of people that I like to listen to, of them giving their thoughts and opinions on sports in general. I've been getting into that recent years, okay? I'll name you my favorite podcasts where they'll talk baseball. One of them is the Michael Kay Show. Michael Kay is the voice of the New York Yankees. He talks New York sports. And that podcast is on the ESPN app. You can get that for free. And they also have a YouTube channel called ESPN New York. Something like that. If you type that in, if you type in the Michael Kay Show on YouTube, you should be able to find it. Yeah, they're live streaming their show on YouTube, which is a really cool thing. You get to see what they look like on the air. All right. But you don't have to watch the video because it's just them talking to the camera. All right. But I've always liked listening to him. Another one is the Mike Francesa podcast. That one's on Sirius XM. Most of the podcasts I listen to are on Sirius XM. Okay. And that's not free. You have to pay a subscription for that every month, but I really like it, so I guess it's worth it to me. I'm on there like every day. Alright. And Mike Francesa, he used to, if any of y'all are old enough to remember, he used to be on a radio show with Mad Dog Christopher Russo. Okay? I think the show was called Mike and the Mad Dog, and I heard that was like the best sports radio show at the time. They were doing it. They did it for many years. Then they split up, and then they did their own shows. And speaking of Mad Dog Unleashed with Christopher Russo is my number one favorite sports podcast. Yeah, I really like him. I really like listening to him talk about sports, especially baseball. And he gets really good guests on his show. Mainly Steve Phillips. And I like watching SportsCenter on TSN, which is the Canadian version of ESPN SportsCenter. Yes, I have access to that. And they had Steve Phillips on. So he was giving his thoughts and analysis on mainly the Toronto Blue Jays. Yes, TSN, they mainly talk about the Canadian sports, especially the Toronto sports teams. All right. And the best baseball podcast to listen to for me is Baseball Tonight with Buster Olney, the ESPN senior writer. Yeah, I've always liked listening to him, and I haven't listened to their podcast yet on the upcoming postseason, and I think they gave out their predictions, so I'll have to listen to that today. Alright? Yeah, I listen to a lot of sports talk podcasts, so if you want to know all the podcasts that I've listened to, then go to my sports talk channel. I'll put it in the link in the description, as well as the end screen, and there's an episode where I talk about all my favorite sports podcasts. Alright? So now, I think I'm ready to go. Yeah, this video is almost 10 minutes already. It's always a long one. I'll go as fast as I can, because you're going to see this on a Tuesday. I'm going to release this as soon as possible, and then I will release the next episode of my Sports Talk podcast of me talking more about this, as well as other sports that I like following. Alright? So here we go. the American League wild card. So the Toronto Blue Jays, they get the bye. And the other team that gets the bye in the American League is the Seattle Mariners. Yes. So, the Toronto Blue Jays, they'll be waiting against the winner of the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees. We're getting Yankees and Red Sox in the wild card series. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. And yeah, an All-American East wild card series, and we're also going to get an All-American East division series because Yankees, Red Sox, and Blue Jays are all in the same division, the American League East. Okay? So, throughout the regular season, the Boston Red Sox, they beat the New York Yankees most of their meetings this season. And they'll meet again in the wild card series. Now, this is weird. For whatever reason, MLB.com is not mentioning the seedings. They're not listed. The seedings are not listed, and I don't know why. That's kind of weird. They used to be listed. Okay, then. Well, I mean, at least they have the team's win-loss record. Maybe that's why that's not seeded. I guess because of they listed the team loss record instead. I don't know. But isn't this weird? We're having Yankees and Red Sox in the American League Wild Card Series. I remember back in 2021, that was the wild card game, Yankees and Red Sox, and back then it was not a best of three. It was just one game. You're in, you move on. You lose, you're eliminated. Yeah. I did not like that. I'm glad the wild card series are best of three. Okay. And over 10 years ago, probably 15 years ago, there was no wild card teams. There was no wild card. Only the division series. So that means there were only 8 teams back then. And then they added the wild card teams, the wild card games. So back then, over 5 years ago, there were 10 teams in the postseason, 5 from each league. And then recent years, they added 2 more teams, 12 teams in the postseason with 6 in each league. All right. I don't know. Maybe they'll add more. Should it be 16 teams like the NBA and the NHL playoffs? I don't know. But to be honest, I hope they don't add any more teams. I think 12 teams is enough. I don't really mind if it's still 10 teams, but that's just me. So, all right. Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees. It's at Yankee Stadium. But this could go either way. This could go either way. I think this will go to 3 games. And this time, I have the Yankees getting revenge on the Red Sox in 3 games. And also, speaking of the Yankees, last year when they were in the World Series, I listened to that whole World Series on radio. Yeah, I went old school because the great John Sterling, who was the longtime play-by-play radio announcer for the Yankees, he retired after the World Series, so I wanted to listen to him one last time. And the guy who replaced him, he's also a well-known announcer, Dave Sims, and he used to be the Seattle Mariners TV play-by-play announcer. Yeah, so I like listening to some Yankee games on the radio, and I'll probably do that again for some of these games. I'll listen to them on radio instead of on TV because I like some of the radio announcers more than the TV announcers. That's just me. and recently I have been doing that, listening to more games on the radio than watching them on TV. All right, so the Yankees, they're one of my favorites for the radio broadcast. It's kind of weird. I used to not like the Yankees, but recently I don't dislike them much anymore. I was rooting for them. I was actually rooting for the Yankees last year, which is kind of unusual from someone that likes the Houston Astros. Yeah. So yeah, I have SiriusXM, and I added a bunch of my favorite shows and stations to my library, which is basically my favorites. So yeah, the cool thing about that is you can listen to like a bunch of sporting events on the radio, the app, and the main thing I listen to for sports is baseball. So some of the teams' radio broadcasts, I added them to my library, and the Yankees are one of them. Okay, moving on now. The Detroit Tigers at the Cleveland Guardians. This time it's an all-American Central wild card series. This is crazy. So, these two teams, they just met. They actually just met in the last week of the regular season. And the Cleveland Guardians, man, they caught up to the Tigers, and they actually passed the Tigers, and they wound up winning the American League Central. And it's unbelievable, because the Detroit Tigers, they were ahead by a lot of games in that division, and somehow the Detroit Tigers kept losing games, and the Cleveland Guardians kept winning games, and that's how this happened. And they have to face each other again, which is kind of strange, but I guess that's how the seedings work. So we're getting a rematch again. Okay, so it's at Cleveland. So not only I'm predicting the winning teams, I'm also predicting how many games they'll win. So I have the Yankees beating the Red Sox in 3 games. I can see that go to 3 games. I can see that go either way. And I can also see this one go either way as well, between the Tigers and the Guardians. Okay. I am going to go with the Detroit Tigers. They're going to get revenge on the Cleveland Guardians. Yeah, when you make a pick, the website immediately scrolls down to the next pick. Okay. So, to the Wild Card National League Series. The 2 teams that have a bye are the Milwaukee Brewers, who have the most wins, 97, and the Philadelphia Phillies, the team that has the second most wins, 96. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Okay. So the first one, we have the San Diego Padres at the Chicago Cubs. This is another interesting one, and it can also go either way. The winner of this series will take on the Milwaukee Brewers. And I am going to go with the Chicago Cubs. I have them advancing. And I have them advancing in 3 games as well. I can see this go almost either way. I'm going to say 3 games again. So I have the Cubs beating the Padres in 3 games. And this one, the Cincinnati Reds against the Los Angeles Dodgers, the defending World Series champions. Yeah, the Cincinnati Reds, they are the luckiest team to get in the postseason because the New York Mets somehow didn't get in. And that's really surprising to me because they were in the National League Championship Series last year against the LA Dodgers, and they put up a pretty good fight. A better fight than the Yankees did in the World Series, that's for sure. And after, during the offseason, they spent so much money. They got Juan Soto, who signed the biggest contract ever. And I'm like, oh man, the Mets are going to get better. Nope. Somehow they got worse. The first half of the season, they were great. Second half of the season, they kept losing games. They just suffered the biggest collapse I've ever seen. Not only in baseball, but probably in sports history. I just can't believe it that this team isn't in the postseason. And I was really hoping to see this team in the postseason. Instead of Mets Dodgers NLCS rematch, we get Reds and Dodgers. No disrespect to the Reds, it's cool to see them in the postseason. They haven't been in the postseason since 2020, which I don't count 2020, by the way, for the MLB. Season was too short, only 60 games. So, and the Cincinnati Reds, look at their win-loss record, 83-79. Normally, a team with that record doesn't get in the postseason. Which part of me thinks maybe it's better if it was still 10 teams in the postseason instead of 12. But that's just me. Although there were some seasons back when the postseason had 10 teams, where a team had a pretty good win-loss record and that team didn't get in, which is a better win-loss record than the Cincinnati Reds. I know, right? Sometimes that happens. But the Cincinnati Reds are the last team people are expecting to make the World Series. So I have the LA Dodgers winning this easily in 2 games. Alright. Now to the Division Series, American League. Another American League East showdown between the New York Yankees and the Toronto Blue Jays. They both have the same record, but the Toronto Blue Jays won the American League East off at the tiebreaker. So we get Toronto Blue Jays hosting games 1 and 2. Alright. And we'll see how the teams that have a bye, we'll see how they play. We'll see how the bye affects the team. I mentioned that I watch SportsCenter on TSN because I have access to that channel. And, they mainly talk about the Toronto sports team. So the Blue Jays, when they got into the postseason, or when they won the American League East, they were talking to George Springer, the former Houston Astros player. They asked him, so what are you going to do during your days off? And he said, sleep. They need sleep and rest. So, this will be a big one. I have the Toronto Blue Jays going to the American League Championship Series in... how many games? I have them winning this in... I'm going to say 5 games. I think that will go down to 5 games. Speaking of 5 games, remember, if any of y'all are old enough to remember, 10 years ago when the Blue Jays were in the postseason. The crowd went crazy when Jose Bautista hit that crazy home run and he did the bat flip. Yeah, that was insane. I remember watching that after I got home from school. Alright. And yeah. So I have them go into the American League Championship Series. In the other American League Division Series, the Detroit Tigers and the Seattle Mariners. Seattle Mariners, to me, they are the hottest team right now in the American League. They have great pitching, and the way they've been playing, oh my gosh. It's crazy. The team that caught up to the Houston Astros, the team that swept the Houston Astros. How about Kyle Riley, the home run derby champion, hitting that many home runs? It's insane. I have to pick the Mariners. I have the Mariners beating the Detroit Tigers. I have them winning in so they have the better record, so they'll be hosting games 1 and game 2. I have them winning in, I'm gonna say 3 games. I think they're gonna sweep the Tigers. Alright, to the National League Division Series. Oh my goodness, another rivalry showdown. The National League Central. Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers. My oh goodness gracious. I mean, these are gonna have a lot of people's attention if these are the division series that I have so far. So, the Milwaukee Brewers recently, this year, they won a lot of games. They won the most games. They are a hot team. We'll see how the bye affects them. Be taking on their rivals, Chicago Cubs. And the Brewers, recent years, they made the postseason, but they choke. They would choke in the postseason. So the question is, will they choke again? This could go either way, honestly. It's hard to say. They are the home team. They'll be hosting more home games. It's hard to say because this could go either way, especially if it's in, division rivalry, I am going to pick the Chicago Cubs in 5 games, which means the Brewers will choke again in the postseason. And the last one in the division series, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Philadelphia Phillies. If this will get big ratings, this will be the biggest one. If this is the division series, this will get the most viewers' attention. Dodgers and Phillies, 2 very popular teams. This could have been the National League Championship Series last year. It also could have been the NLCS a couple of years ago. I think in 2022. No, 2023. Yeah. I really thought the Phillies would get in the World Series in 2023. That was my prediction back then. Somehow, they lost. I think they blew a 3-1 series lead in the NLCS against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and somehow the Diamondbacks, they made a comeback. Yeah. So we're finally getting, if this, most likely this will be the division series. I really don't see the Cincinnati Reds beating the LA Dodgers. I'll be shocked if they do beat the Dodgers in the wild card series. But people are going to look at it like this: Dodgers and Phillies, shouldn't that be the NLCS? You know, another podcast that I like listening to is the Tony Kornheiser Show. He was saying, Tony Kornheiser, he's the host of Pardon the Interruption on ESPN, PTI. In my opinion, the best 30-minute sports talk show. He was saying that, shouldn't this be the NLCS? And that would be a great NLCS, but it's all because of the seedings, on how they seed it. And for whatever reason, MLB.com isn't listing the seedings. So, this is going to be a big one. This could go either way as well. The Phillies will be hosting more of the home games. All right. It's hard to count out the World Series champions. But it's also hard to win the World Series back-to-back years. It's hard to count out the Dodgers. Even though last year they had a better win-loss record, this year they're not as dominant. They're still a great team. The Phillies, they are a hot team right now. I think this will go down in 5 games. I think this will go down in 5 games as well. And I am going to go with the defending World Series champions. It's just so hard to count them out. All right. My final 4. ALCS. Toronto Blue Jays against the Seattle Mariners. These two teams have great pitching. Toronto Blue Jays have a better record, so they'll be hosting games 1 and 2. All right. You know, the Seattle Mariners are the only team that have not made the World Series. You know, they had one year, I think this was back in 2000 or 2001. They won like over 110 games, and they somehow didn't make the World Series. And I think after that, they missed the postseason for the next 21 consecutive seasons. Isn't that crazy? A team didn't make the playoffs for 21 straight years. And I think that was the longest playoff drought in not only in baseball history, but in sports history, out of the 4 major sports. So they finally made the postseason again in 2022. We're getting a 2022 American League Wild Card Series rematch. This time in the ALCS. Oh boy. This ought to be something. So, the question is, do I have the Seattle Mariners finally making it to the World Series for the first time in their franchise? And the answer is yes! I do have the Seattle Mariners finally going to the World Series. To me, they have the best pitching. When you have great pitching, you're going to win a lot of games. And I think they are going to be hot. I think they're going to stay hot. I have the Seattle Mariners going to the World Series for the first time in their franchise. National League Championship Series. Chicago Cubs at the LA Dodgers. Oh, the Dodgers have one more win than the Cubs, so that means the Dodgers will be hosting more home games. Excuse me, I forgot to say how many games will the Seattle Mariners win. I think they're going to win in 5 games. I think they're that They are that damn good. They are that good. And they'll be hosting Game 5. Crowd will go nuts if they finally clinch the World Series. Alright, to the NLCS, Cubs and Dodgers. Well, this will get big ratings for sure. I remember this was the NLCS back in 2016. The year where the Chicago Cubs finally won the World Series that year. That was very exciting. That was very emotional for a lot of people, too. And, oh boy, it's hard. It's hard to count out the defending World Series champions. And I am going to go with the Los Angeles Dodgers to the World Series. I have them going back to the World Series. I have them winning the NLCS in 6 games. I have them winning this in 6 games. Alright, my World Series. The Seattle Mariners and the Los Angeles Dodgers. And you know what's funny? These two teams, they met in the final weekend of the regular season. Yeah, they did. They really did. It was a 3-game series in Seattle. I forgot which team took the series in that. I'm going to check right now. Bear with me for a second. I have my ESPN app on my phone open. Let's see here. If I can find it. Okay, I found it. Oh, the Dodgers, they swept the Mariners 3-0. But that series didn't really mean much because both teams already clinched. They already clinched their division. Yeah. But if this will be a very interesting World Series. I remember back in 2022, the World Series was the Philadelphia Phillies and the Houston Astros, and those two teams, they met in the final regular season series. Yeah. And it didn't end on a Sunday. It actually ended on a Wednesday. The final day of the 2022 regular season was actually on a Wednesday instead of a Sunday. But that was the final regular season series. Yeah, for the Phillies and the Astros, and they met again a month later in the World Series. So this is what I have, a rematch 1 month later. So if this is the World Series, the LA Dodgers will have more home games. Okay. If this is the World Series, am I going to cheer for a team between these two? See, I always root for the Houston Astros, so obviously the Seattle Mariners are one of their rivals, but I really don't mind. I don't mind seeing the Mariners winning the World Series for the first time. I might actually cheer for them. Part of me doesn't really like the Dodgers very much because, they spend so much money. Seems like they can get almost any player they want. But yeah, last year, Freddie Freeman, oh my gosh, hit that game-winning home run in Game 1. That was crazy. We'll see how Clayton Kershaw does in the postseason. I think he will be pitching in the postseason. I know he's retiring. And he usually chokes. He usually chokes in the postseason. There's certain players where they'll just choke in the playoffs. He's one of them. But he will go down as one of the all-time greats. So, this one, winning the World Series, I have the Los Angeles Dodgers going back-to-back. and I have them winning in, I think this could go 7 games. 6 or 7. I might as well say 7. Game 7. There's nothing like a Game 7 of a World Series, or even a League Championship Series. The 2 best words in sports, Game 7. So there you have it. Continue. Oh, I need to log into my MLB.com account. I don't have one. Normally it doesn't say that after I submit my bracket, but oh well. You guys got to see what it looked like. And oh my gosh, this video is already 40 minutes. This is the longest postseason video ever I've done. So if you listened to all this, thank you very much. But I'm not quite done yet, because ESPN.com also has their postseason baseball challenge. I don't know if this is their first year having this, or if they had this last year and I didn't notice. But good thing I found out, because I get ESPN notifications, and I got one saying, hey, you can fill out your bracket. So I'm going to do another one on here. Crown your World Series champion. Create a bracket. Now this one I'll be much faster. This one I'm going to make different picks. It's okay to have 2 different predictions, okay? Now for this particular one, the World Series that I have, okay, this is the one where I made my World Series prediction before the season began on my Sports Talk podcast. Yes, I made my World Series prediction before the regular season began, and those 2 teams that I have in that World Series prediction are still in the postseason. They're both in the postseason, which is actually very hard to do, making a championship prediction before the regular season begins, and both teams made the playoffs. So yeah, I will show you which 2 teams I have going to the World Series in this bracket from my Sports Talk podcast, the prediction before my World Series prediction before the regular season began. So this one, I'm going to move at a much faster pace. So Tigers and Guardians. This time I'm going to pick the Guardians, because this could go either way. I'll say 3 games as well. Red Sox, Yankees. This time I'll go with the Red Sox in 3 games as well. Reds, Dodgers. I can't pick the Reds, I'm sorry. I really wish it was the New York Mets, because that would get more ratings, you know. I gotta go with the Dodgers. I guess this time I'll go 3 games, just to add more drama. Padres and Cubs. This time I'll go with the Padres in 3 games. Alright. Guardians and Mariners. I'm still going to go with the Mariners. I'll go with them in division series. I'll say 4 games. Yeah, I'll say 4 games. Yeah, this one, they list the seedings, but not the team records. So yeah, the opposite. Red Sox and Blue Jays. I am going to go with the Red Sox. That is my upset pick. Yeah, surprises can happen in the postseason. That is my surprising pick. I have them winning in... I'll say 4 games, which means the Red Sox will be hosting Game 4. Alright, I have Dodgers and Phillies again. This time I'm going to go with the Phillies in 5 games. Padres and Brewers. This time I'll go with the Brewers in 5 games as well. Alright, American League Championship Series, Mariners and Red Sox. I am going to have the Boston Red Sox advancing to the World Series in... I'll say, It's hard to say, because these two teams are very far away from each other. They have to fly across the country. I'll go, because this is best of 7. I'll say... I'll say 7 games. National League Championship Series, Phillies and the Brewers. I have the Brewers choking. They're going to come up short. So I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies in... I'll say 6 games. So yeah, this is my World Series prediction before the regular season began. This is what I had on, I mentioned this on my Sports Talk channel, Red Sox and Phillies. Yes, the 2 red teams. If this is the World Series, I am going to cheer for the Phillies because the Red Sox are one of my least favorite teams, and I would like to see Bryce Harper get a World Series ring. I've always liked him. I remember he used to play with the Washington Nationals, and the Nationals, they used to be my favorite team before I permanently became a Houston Astros fan. So, my World Series in this bracket, Red Sox and Phillies. This would get big ratings for sure. 2 teams in the Northeast. Man, let me tell you something. It's hard. Sometimes the Red Sox, they can make a run in the postseason. They can. Sometimes they can get hot as the postseason goes on. Sometimes that happens. And I am going to go with winning the World Series. Oh boy, this is a tough one. I will cheer for the Phillies. So will I pick them to win because I'm cheering for them? They will be hosting more of the games because they have the better seating. Okay. I will be cheering for them. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to pick the Phillies to win the World Series. But I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised if the Red Sox win the World Series. I don't remember who I had winning in the World Series on my Sports Talk podcast. I might have said the Red Sox. I might have said the Red Sox, but I'll go with the Phillies. I have the Phillies winning. I'll say 6 games. Yeah. All right, there you have it. So yeah, I made 2 brackets, 2 different picks. I can make a second one if I want to. Maybe the second one will be the one from MLB.com, since for whatever reason I can't save it on that one. So, yeah. So the first one I have, Mariners and Dodgers, an all West Coast World Series. That hasn't happened since 2002, believe it or not. Yeah, it was the San Francisco Giants and the Anaheim Angels. Yes, the Angels, they were actually in a World Series back then. I know, crazy. Okay, guys, I'm sorry for this long video. I try not to make it this long, but it's always like this, especially when I made 2 different brackets. So, enjoy the postseason. If you want to hear me talk about the postseason more throughout the series, then go follow my Sports Talk podcast. Click on the link below or the end screen right now. Alright? And yeah, I would do 2 episodes a week. This is the big thing happening in October. So yeah, folks, who do you have in your postseason bracket challenge? Who do you have going to the World Series? Which team do you have winning? Let me know. See you then. next time. Well, on my sports talk channel. Alright? See you then. Enjoy the postseason.